Okay, assalamu alaikum everybody. Sorry about that. Bit of a delay. Is everybody okay? And let me know if you can hear me. Quick sound check. It's telling me that the sound is that the connection is a little bit poor. We have Paraboy, assalamu alaikum. Roman Lopez. It's the first time we've heard you. Loud and clear, Iron Man. Okay, thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum everybody. Good to have you on. All right, let me get my presentation of what I want to share today. I think I need to move away from this format. Doesn't seem to be working as well as it used to. All right, okay. So if anybody read the description, I'm basically going to be using this. It was basically somebody was mentioning to me, we were discussing the issue of dua and the ideas behind it. So I thought, why not just address it in the stream? So I thought also one key verse that I'm going to lead up to towards the end is the verse which I've named the stream after, invoking females. The verse which I put in the description, where it says they invoke nothing. يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ إِلَّا إِنَاثًا. They invoke nothing other than him, other than females, and they invoke nothing but the rebellious Shaytan marida. All right, okay. So first of all, let's look at this whole thing. I've even spelt invoking wrong. You know what? Let's go ahead and change that now. There we go. All right, okay. So now I've got it. There we go. There we go. All right, so invoking and dua. So one thing which Hassan al-Maliki, basically, he's the one who highlighted this first and foremost, for me anyway, was the idea of dua in the Qur'an. Okay, dua. Over and over, of course, the Qur'an says, it blames those who do dua ma'allah or dua min dunillah, right? They invoke others with God or invoke other than God. So here's one of such verses. It says here, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم والذين لا يدعون مع الله إلها آخر, and those who do not invoke with Allah another deity. Okay, and then the verse continues, nor kill a soul, etc. So it's one of the blameworthy things mentioned here even before killing of a nafs. Okay, another verse here, famous one, وَأَنَّ الْمَسَاجِدَ لِلَّهِ فَلَا تَدْعُوا مَعَ اللَّهِ أَحَدًا. And truly the masajid are for Allah, the mosques are for Allah, so do not invoke with Allah anyone. And then the verse continues, it says, وَأَنَّهُ لَمَّا أَقَامَ عَبْدُ اللَّهِ, and that when the servant of Allah, the Prophet, stood up invoking him, they almost became about him a compacted mass. So they were like all jumping around him. قُلْ إِنَّمَا أَدْعُو رَبِّي. Say to them, I only do dua to my Lord, and I don't do any shirk with him. Just give me a second. All right, yeah. So, إِنَّمَا أَدْعُو رَبِّي وَلَا أُشْرِكُ بِهِ أَحَدًا. And this verse, if you look at this verse carefully, of course, it's mentioned two things, because usually dua ma'allah is just equated as shirk. In fact, a lot of things in the Quran are just equated with shirk. Okay, and I put in the description, there are 4 separate things which are mentioned in the Quran, and generally, traditionally, we just we lump them all as shirk. Okay, And that's not entirely accurate, even though, of course, there might be some overlaps. So here, for example, it says, إِنَّمَا أَدْعُ رَبِّي وَلَا أُشْرِكُ بِهِ أَحَدًا. I only do dua to my Lord, and I don't do any shirk with him. Okay, so here there is definitely a connection. There's a connection between doing dua only to Allah and not doing shirk, but there are also two separate things here. There are two different things. Okay. And here's another one. Okay, this one gives us another idea about it. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولا يملك الذين يدعون من دونه الشفاعة, and those they invoke besides him do not possess any intercession. Okay. إلا من شهد بالحق, except those who testify to the truth and can benefit, and they know. So this is one of those verses which tells us something a bit more, that the dua which is mentioned is not always about supplicating to statues and idols. Okay, it is very similar to the idea of shirk, that the dua is always to people. It's the people. Okay, and here it's talking about these people. وَلَا يَمْلِكُ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ, these people whom they invoke besides Allah do not possess the power of intercession, except those who testify of the truth. Okay, so of course these can't be idols. These can't be inanimate statues and idols. Okay, there must be people that we're talking about here. Okay, إِلَّا مَنْ شَهِدَ, because they can, the ones who are allowed to intercede, they are the ones who testify of the truth, and they know. And then the next verse is وَلَئِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَهُمْ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهُ فَأَنَّى يُؤْفَكُونَ. And if you ask them who created them, they would say it is Allah. Now this isn't, it's we need to get out of this idea that the Qur'an is trying to teach people that the idols, the statues, they didn't create anything. Everybody knows, even the Arab pagans, they knew that the idols that they worship didn't create anything. Okay, it's not talking about it. It's talking about the people. وَإِنْ سَأَلْتَهُمْ مَنْ خَلَقَهُمْ لَيَقُولُنَّ اللَّهُ. If you ask them who created it, they will say Allah. Okay, so why do you do dua to other than Him? Other than Him here are things which have ability. Okay, we're talking about other people. So dua, what can it mean? The other meaning for it, which you can start to see in the Quran, maybe from the stream, you can, next time when you read in the Quran, you can start to have a look for it. It can actually thus mean something very similar to invoke in English. When we have invoke, the word invoke, rather than supplicate, rather than call, when you invoke something, when you bring it up, right? You invoke the law, for example. So when you're having a dispute or something, you can bring it up. In that way you're invoking it, you're calling it up. Okay, so in that way, it's another meaning for dua. It's not that you're calling to something. It's not that you're calling for it and asking, please do this, don't do that. Begging, supplicating, make me rich, not that. It's you're invoking something. You're invoking like something sacred, right? Like I invoke the law, or I invoke what so and so said. Okay, and that's the meaning. That's a lot. It's throughout the Quran. It said these people invoke other than God, in terms of they invoke other authorities. Okay, these other authorities. Okay, you tell them God says this, and they bring up no, but so and so says this. Okay, that's invoking. Okay, that's invoking other than God, or invoking others with God. Okay, and we can see this in one of the famous verses, which puzzles people when they look at it. They say, okay. The verse here says, لا تجعلوا دعاء الرسول بينكم كدعاء بعضكم لبعض. Okay, do not make the dua of the messenger between you or among you like the dua of some of you among others. Okay, do not make the invoking of the messenger. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that people were making dua to each other. Okay, as in supplicating to each other. They weren't supplicating to each other like praying to each other. No, they were making dua, as in they were invoking each other as authorities. Okay, and the Quran here is saying, don't make the messenger as if his authority is equal to any of you. Okay, it's not the same. And don't make the dua of the messenger among you like the dua of you to each other. When you two are when people are having dispute within the community, they can bring up various authorities. Okay, say, okay, I don't know, family members would speak, would bring up the elder. All right, the elder is saying this, or uncles, which one of my uncles, this uncle said that uncle said this. Okay, this is the bringing up, invoking various people. Okay, the messenger is not to be brought down to that level where invoking him, and you make it invoking him as if you're invoking anybody else. It's not the same. He has authority. Okay, and that's why the verse continues, قَدْ يَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ يَتَسَلَّلُونَ مِنْكُمْ لِوَاذَا. Right? Allah already knows those of you who slip away, concealed by others. What does it mean, slip away? Okay, it means that you're using each other to slip away. Okay, you're using each other's authority, or bringing up others to slip away from the command of the messenger, from what the messenger was telling them. Okay, we're talking, of course, here during his time. قَدْ يَعْلَمُ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ يَتَسَلَّلُونَ مِنْكُمْ لِوَاذَا فَلْيَحْذَرْ. Okay, so let them beware, those who dissent from the Prophet's order, okay, lest fitna strikes them or painful punishment. Okay, so this makes it clear that what we're talking about here is the order, the dua of the messenger. Here we're talking about the orders that he gave. Okay, the orders. So when a group of people are together, okay, and they are discussing some issue, all right, and one among them brings up the messenger, he said we should do it like this, and then others, they يتسللون, they try to get out of that by bringing up others. Okay, the messenger said that, but we don't really have to do it that way. We could do it the way that so-and-so said it. Okay, or this person said it, or that person said it. They start to bring the dua, they start to invoke others other than the messenger. They bring the invoking of the messenger as if it's just invoking anybody else, that it's all equal. Okay, we can get there and we decide who to follow. Okay, it's not like that. Right, so this verse again, it's showing clearly this idea of invoking, of dua. Okay, it doesn't always mean supplicating and praying. Okay, and we have historical examples of this. I mean, I don't usually mention narrations or hadiths here, but this is one of the things which happened. Okay, the ummah, even though of course we're talking here in this channel about Quran, Quran-based Islam, which often is opposed to the hadith, hadith Islam, but because the hadiths, are, there's a lot of problems in them. But it's not problems because those hadiths come from the Prophet and they're problematic. They're problematic because they don't come from the Prophet. Because what was actually true hadiths of the Prophet have either been watered down, distorted, changed, added to, removed from, all the rest of it. And this was happening very quickly. So Ibn Abbas, who he the Prophet passed away when he was still a young man, and he kept on learning. One of the things he said here, I didn't put a translation, but one of the things that happened during his time when he was an older man, he became blind later on in his life, and people used to come to him and seek guidance and stuff. And he would tell them, the Messenger of Allah, for example, in these narrations are basically talking about the Hajj of Mut'ah, that the Prophet used to do, Hajj of Mut'ah, right? So when he would say to the people, yes, you can do Hajj of Mut'ah, okay, they would say to him, but Abu Bakr and Umar said, no, said don't do Hajj of Mut'ah, Tamattu'. And so he said that this famous line, he says, يُوشِكُ أَن تَنْزِلُ عَلَيْكُمْ حِجَارَةٌ مِنَ السَّمَاءِ. It's almost as if rocks are going to fall down on you from the sky. I tell you the Messenger of Allah said something, and you respond by saying, قال Abu Bakr, قال Umar. Yeah, so this is something which he was fighting a bit against Ibn Abbas. That he would tell him, look, the Messenger of Allah said this or this, right? So he's invoking the Messenger of Allah, okay, for a dispute that you can do tamattu of Hajj. And they say, no, but the response is, Abu Bakr and Umar said, no, we shouldn't do it. So they will follow Abu Bakr and Umar. So this is the kind of thing that we're talking about. Okay, when we talk about dua, الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ مَعَ اللَّهِ, those who do dua with God, you can get the same idea from understanding the concept of dua of the Rasul, right? That don't make the dua of the Messenger among you like the dua of others. Now this of course isn't shirk to do that, okay? But doing the same concept, having the same concept with God, that is it's connected with shirk. Okay? So same thing. So, and the top narration, some will say that it's not strong. The one underneath is the one which is in Musnad Ahmad, And he says the same thing basically. أراهم سيهلكون. He was asked about people who do this, and he says, I think that they will be destroyed. أقول قال النبي, I say the messenger of Allah, the prophet said, I say the prophet said, أقول قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ويقولون, and they say, نهى أبو بكر وعمر. Abu Bakr and Umar discouraged it. So Ibn Abbas is saying, I am saying that the messenger of Allah said to do something, right? And their response is, yeah, but Abu Bakr and Umar said don't do it. Okay, and this is making the dua of the messenger as if it's a dua of others. Okay. Okay, so this isn't it's not like this verse, going back to this, لا تجعلوا دعاء الرسول بينكم كدعاء بعضكم بعض. Don't make the dua of the messenger. It's not as some people think, it just means calling, like when you call. No, because again the Quran is very specific in its wording. Calling in the Quran is nida. Okay, so in another verse it says, إن الذين ينادونك من وراء الحجرات أكثرهم لا يعقلون. Speaking to the Prophet, saying that most of these people who shout to you, call to you from behind the chambers, from your rooms, basically, most of them don't know, and if they had just been patient until you came out to them. And this is about incident during the Prophet's time where, some very, rough Bedouin, Arab types would just come and, call to the Prophet, shout to him, come out, Muhammad, come out, we need to speak to you, come out, So this is the nida, okay? It's not dua, okay? Well, when what's mentioned here in this verse, dua Rasul bainakum, what's being censored here is not the same as what's being censored over here. What's being censored here is just this shouting, this raising your voice, come out, this kind of disrespect, right? And even in the previous verse, it says, don't raise your voice above the voice of the messenger, otherwise, lest your actions be voided. Okay, so what does all of this have to do with invoking females, inath? I'm not going to be able to read the whole passage to make it as clear as I would like to. It's not the meaning of that, but what we need to understand is that these inath are, first of all, of course, they are not just females. They're not females. They are not female statues, because the verse says, "In yad'una min dunillah illa inath," that they call upon other than God only inath, only females. Well, many of the idols were male. Hubal, for example, was a male idol. Okay, so it can't mean the physical idols. Doesn't mean the physical idols. Nor does it mean that these were actual. They were people, of course, but it doesn't mean they were all female or necessarily women. Okay, the idea behind it is inath in language comes linguistically from a meaning of softness, coyness, and not being hard or direct. Okay, and that kind of softness, which is a good thing in women, it's a good trait in women, but it's a negative trait in men. Okay, and so basically the Quran is saying here they only call upon inath. It's like it's being derogatory to these people, saying that they are weak, they are inath, and you can see that from the actual verses. Okay, if you go back, and encourage everybody to go back in these verses up to sort of the beginning of the section, which is from verse 107, and read the next 10 verses. Okay. So it says here, for example, it's speaking about these inath. Okay, that the whole passage from this verse up to where it says they only call upon inath is speaking about these inath, and so you can start to see what type of people these are. Okay, so for example, here it says وَلَا تُجَادِلُوا عَنِ الَّذِينَ يَخْتَانُونَ أَنفُسَهُمْ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ مَنْ كَانَ خَوَّانًا أَثِيمًا. And do not argue on behalf of those who deceive themselves. Indeed, Allah loves not the ones who is habitually a sinner or a deceiver. So these people, others are having to argue on their behalf. They are sort of these weak, soft people in the back, causing trouble. Okay, who are being called up, who are being invoked by others, and yet other people are having to defend them. Because some of the believers, you must remember, some of the believers, they listened to the hypocrites, they listened to the troublemakers, and so the Quran is telling the believers that do not start to argue on behalf of these people. Okay, لا تجادل عن الذين يختانون أنفسهم إن الله لا يحب من كان خوانا أثيما. Don't argue on behalf of those who are deceiving themselves. Okay, and the next verse it says about them again, يستخفون من الناس. They conceal themselves. يستخفون. I mean, here the translation says they conceal their evil intention and deeds, but يستخفون literally means they hide, sort of like, they're hiding. They don't want to be seen. They don't stand in the front. They don't push their agenda, boldly, outwardly, forwardly. Okay, they are soft. They are weak. Okay, they're at the back. They're stirring up things from behind. يستخفون من الناس. They conceal themselves from the people, but they do not conceal themselves from Allah. Okay. وهو معهم إذ يبيتون ما لا يرضى من القول. And He is with them when they spend the night. And again, look, they're having their discourses at night, right? In unaccepted speech. God is with them while they're doing that. At night they're sitting there, gossiping, whispering, doing these kind of things. Yeah. So again, this shows you that there's this quality of inath in them, this quality of softness, of weakness. Okay, so you see that soft, these are soft and weak people, and they are hiding, operating from the shadows. They're not bold enough to come forward and sort of like confront the messenger and tell him, no, this is how we think it should be done. This is how it should be done. Okay, but there are other people who are listening to them, who invoke them still, because they were, people seen in honor, and it was tribal. Don't forget, Arabia was very tribal. Okay, so if you keep reading the verse, unfortunately this slide isn't showing very well. Neither is this. Undo this. To find a new way of presenting this, because this wasn't doing very well. For some reason, these two lines aren't coming up. So you'll see, if you keep reading the verse, you'll see that they have others arguing for them on their behalf, that they spread slander, they are talking about people behind their backs, that they have secret discourses, najwa. Okay, it's mentioned in all of these are mentioned in that verse, and it goes all the way up to the final verse, which then comments on those who take them as who ascribe them as partners of Allah. So these people who are in the background, okay, are being ascribed as partners of Allah. That's why the previous verse from this says, "Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi." God does not forgive that you should do shirk with Him. Okay, and then the next verse says, "In yad'una min dunihi illa inatha," that they are calling other than Him nothing but females. These weak people. How can you call on such weak people who are behind the scenes, hiding? They can't even argue for themselves. Okay, and you are taking them as shuraka. You are doing dua with them. Okay, you are invoking them. إِن يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ إِلَّا إِنَاثًا وَإِن يَدْعُونَ إِلَّا شَيْطَانًا مَرِيدًا. But they are truly calling only on the shaytan marid, because this in the end comes from shaytan, and it's always going to be ascribed to him. So that's basically it. I'm not sure if I got the point across. It's a pretty difficult concept, I think, to get, especially me trying to explain it in this way. The last thing I wanted to mention, I don't think I'm going to spend too much time on it, but these four concepts in the Qur'an are not being seen, are not being investigated, I think, as they should. I haven't, done as much research as I want to on them, but it's that these four terms are always being lumped together as shirk. Okay, I'm going to speak about the last three first. So there are three terms. The last three terms are mentioned in the Quran often. Ibada min dunillah, so servitude to those other than God. Ibada min dunillah. Okay, so ibada min dunillah, that's one term in the Quran. Then you have dua ma'allah, there's dua with Allah. Okay, and then there's dua min dunillah, dua to other than God. Okay, in the Quran there's nothing which says ibada ma'allah. Okay, there's no such thing in the Quran where God says they do dua, they do ibada ma'allah. They are in servitude to others with God. Why? Because dua ma'allah is actually what shirk is. Okay, shirk is that. So if you look at these four terms, they are basically mirroring each other. The shirk is ibada ma'allah, servitude to others with God, and then there's also ibada min dunillah, okay, which is servitude to other than God, or what is less than God. Okay, I mean everything is less than God, but what is below Him. And then there's dua ma'allah and dua min dunillah. Okay, so you have these two phrases, ma'allah and min dunillah. which come for dua and for ibadah both. And these four terms need to be recognized. But like I said, that ibadah ma'allah isn't there. Instead, it's shirk. Okay, the shirk is what stands in the place for ibadah ma'allah. So if you want to understand what shirk is, it's that you are in servitude in ibadah to others with God. Okay, to others with God, and it's distinct, even if it overlaps, it is distinct from ibadah min dunillah. So that's all I wanted to mention. I think these are things that need investigation, because, like I said, these are not haphazard. The Qur'an is very specific in the words it uses. The times where it's saying dua ma'allah and not dua min dunillah, there's a reason for that. And we'll take a bit of contemplation to look into that. All right, good. Let's get back to the tab and see how many people we have. Okay, 12 people with us. And let's check the chat. If you have any questions. We don't have anybody backstage. Once again, looks like we're getting less and less people coming to share something. That's fine. What do we have here? All right, okay, so say salam, sorry, unable to understand use of the term soft. People, please throw some light, as in modern terms. Okay, I didn't want to use it in terms of the modern, but it's like basically like how we would, how on the streets, let's say, men would denigrate other men who are soft. What would they call them? There's a naughty word, right? Begin with P. They'd call them, right? What you're a girl, yeah, you're a girl, that kind of thing, basically. You're weak, you're a girl, it's that kind of talking about them, right? So it's basically when men do that to each other, they say about another man, you're a girl, you're a wimp, right? Of course, they don't mean literally you're a girl. Okay, they know you're not a girl. But what they mean is you're soft, right? You're soft. So that's basically what the Qur'an is saying in these verses. إِن يَدْعُونَ مِن دُونِهِ إِلَّا إِنَاثًا. Because if you look at that whole passage, you'd have to read it by itself and take it slow and look at it. You'll see that these people who are being mentioned they are showing very weak characteristics. Very soft, so weak and soft. Right, and that's the asl, the origins of the word inath anyway, right? Inath, soft, right? A soft, and then women, it's a good thing, it's a good trait for them to be soft, right? In terms of even just bodily, right? A man bodily should have, should be hard, have a hard body and stuff like that. Woman, no, they should be soft, right? So it's in that kind of thing. Now, does that make sense? Is transmitting man-made hadiths invoke? No, it isn't. It isn't. The idea, there's another verse which I mentioned actually when the person who I was speaking to on Reddit, which caused me to decide to talk about dua here. One of the things I mentioned for them is one of the verses which says, لَهُ الدَّعْوَةُ الْحَقِّ. Okay, to Allah belongs the da'wah of the haqq, of the truth. So any dua, any invoking towards the truth is good. Okay, it's for Allah. All right, and the same thing with shirk. Some people, I think I mentioned when we did the stream about shirk. Allah says in the Quran, يُشْرِكُونَ بِاللَّهِ مَا لَمْ يُنَزِّلْ بِهِ سُلْطَانًا. They associate others with Allah what He has not sent down any authority. Why is that condition put in? Why is that condition put in? Because we have Allah has given them sultan, not to be shirk in that kind of way, but in terms of and the idea that we're talking about to be in obedience to and submission to, right? So the messengers have got that. Allah has sent down sultan on them. وَأَنزَلْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ سُلْطَانًا مُبِينًا. Okay, we have sent down sultan for them. Okay, doesn't mean that they become gods of Allah or aliha, but you are to obey them, messengers, because Allah has given them sultan to be obeyed. Okay, so that has to be recognized as well. In the end, anybody who is calling to what Allah is calling to, obedience to them or servitude to them is not shirk. Okay, it's not shirk. It is shirk if suddenly that person who you're obedience to or submission to or whatever, if they start, calling to something which Allah does not call to, and then you follow them, and ignore what Allah calls to, now it's shirk. Okay, now it's shirk. But to be in obedience to somebody who is calling to what Allah Himself is calling to, no, that's just that's under the umbrella of the haqq and the truth which God calls to. The Prophet wasn't. He was shy. Yeah, he had haya, but he wasn't like in the turn that kind of way which is mentioned in the Quran. Yeah, he wouldn't speak, for example, about people behind their backs. He wouldn't do secret discourses at night. He wasn't this kind of like person in the background, afraid to stand up. No, in the battles, for example, he was the one in the front line, right? And Allah says in the Quran, جاهد الكفار والمنافقين واغلظ عليهم. Do jihad against the kuffar and the hypocrites and be harsh, stern with them. واغلظ عليهم. And and he used to say إذا غضب لم يقم أحد لغضبه. The Prophet, when he used to get angry, nobody would be able to stand up to him. Because I don't know if you've met people in your life like this. People when they get angry, even if they're not physically built or strong or anything, but when they get angry, it's like very difficult to counter them, right? They just push through, right? So the Messenger of Allah was like, when he would get angry, nobody would be able to stand in his way because of his anger, right? So he wasn't in any way that kind of softness. Yeah. Yes, he was very, very masculine. Okay. Yeah, again, so I hope I haven't made many people misunderstand this. Okay, we're not talking about the kind of softness which is gentleness and mercy and for this, yeah. We're talking about people who want to do something evil or something wrong, right? But they don't have they are too soft to get up and do it in your face. Like the person who will speak about you behind your back. Okay, it's weakness. Yeah, somebody who speaks about you behind your back, it's weakness, right? They won't come up and say it to your face, right? They are soft in that kind of way, devious, like the little person who is soft and stuff. Maybe he was, he himself was bullied or something, but then he does all these little things, okay? But at the first sign of any kind of confrontation, he runs away. Right? He runs away. That's what it means. Okay, that kind of inath. All right, and that's what's mentioned. If you just again, I'd highly recommend you to read those ayat, going all the way back. You'll see that what's mentioned here are these inath. Okay, these weak people. They're not about to confront the Prophet or the believers or anybody like that in the background. They even get other people to argue on their behalf. They're not going to get up and argue on their own behalf. Okay. All right. Yeah. So exactly. So when they used to compare the Prophet to a shy virgin, they're talking about his bashfulness. Okay. His modesty, his haya. Okay. It's not talking about that kind of weakness. Okay. Not talking about that kind of weakness, which does not stand up for itself. You know what I mean? Doesn't stand up for itself. All right, we have Aslam. I'm going to bring you on. Assalamu alaikum, Aslam.
Yeah, walaikum assalam. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good as well. So actually, I wanted to discuss something about dawa related. But as you mentioned about invoking about Prophet, certain thing I just as you also mentioned, people often invoke the Prophet in like small things like a woman is applying perfume, so Prophet has caused this, or sometimes wishing Merry Christmas, Prophet has this thing. So how do you look into these all things when people this basic routine day-to-day stuff they invoke Prophet in these all things lifestyle related?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question because I want to make the distinction clear. When we're talking about invoking others with God, Okay, invoking others with God. We're talking about things where where like let's say there's let me give you a basic example. Okay, that Allah said in the Quran, and I know we use example a lot, that there's complete freedom of religion. There's complete freedom of religion. Okay, all right. So you invoke that. Right? You
Okay.
invoke that to in a dispute on something, right? So, for example, in Pakistan, you had the BB, what's her name? The BB case of the Christian woman who they
Yes,
fought.
black
Yeah,
related. Yes.
exactly. Okay, so in that you can invoke Allah, or you invoke the madhahib, the schools of thought, the jurisprudence, who say no, whoever insults the messenger of Allah should be killed. Okay, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about invoking others other than God. Okay, we're invoking that. We're invoking authorities. Okay, invoking authorities. Okay, to push something which God has not sent down any authority upon. Okay, not
Yeah.
talking about just little wisdoms that you get from different people. Okay, like for example, war is deceit. Okay, war is deceit is a piece of wisdom from China, right? And it's found its way around the world. Okay, people can invoke that. That's not invoking other than God. Okay,
Yeah, but
that's
actually, my
just
question is that, like, about preferences. Like, they invoke having a particular hairstyle. They will say that Prophet has cursed this hairstyle. Women wearing perfume. These all I'm
yeah.
talking about preferences,
All right.
lifestyle
Yeah,
preferences.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. Those, of course, have no bearing. I mean, somebody asked me about this recently, right? Is it haram for women to wear perfume? Of course, it's not, right?
Yeah.
So exactly, yeah, that's an example. But the issue with that, of course, is that they are using hadiths which go back to the Prophet, which they claim
Yes.
go
Yes.
back to the Prophet.
Mm.
Okay, and
Yeah.
this takes the discussion in another place. Takes the discussion
Mm.
into how what are we gonna we need to understand if a hadith can be true or not. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and hadith which doesn't have which prohibits something where there's no inkling of it in the Quran, we reject it. Okay, but other people will accept it. The accepting of it doesn't make them mushrikeen. Okay, it doesn't make
Yeah.
them mushrikeen. All right.
Mm-hmm.
But it's because they have the idea that the prophet the prophet can he added prohibitions which aren't in the Quran. Right.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
they consider that to be part of the authority which was given to him. Okay. So we
Mm-hmm.
can't move that into this thing where we're talking about dua min dunillah. No, it doesn't.
All right.
It's when we're talking about clear cut things where
Mm-hmm.
God and His Messenger have said something, and other people have said something else. Okay, and there's the battleground. Okay, there's the battle. Like the quote I put with Ibn Abbas, where he used to tell people, they used to ask him, could we do Hajj tamattu? And we say, yeah, the Prophet said you can do it, and he did it. And they would say, but Abu Bakr and Umar said, don't do it. Okay, now you have an issue, right? Now you have an
Correct.
issue. Okay. Yeah, so
So,
that's
in terms
that's
of
what I
like
would.
basic lifestyle preferences, people are open, correct? Like, they
Yeah,
can choose
yeah,
their lifestyle. Yes.
yeah. You can choose how you want. I mean, people who wear their hairstyles like I don't know, like David Beckham or
Yeah.
some football star or something. Yeah, they're doing it. They're not. That's not invoking others with God. Okay,
Yeah. Yeah.
It's nothing. Yeah, that's just basic lifestyle stuff. It's not an issue. It's
Mm-hmm.
not an issue.
Correct. Yeah.
Mm.
So basically, yeah, in reference to, thank you for
Yeah.
giving clarity. Yeah, in reference to like dawa, because when we discuss with people, we have like different mindset of people. People who are more scientifically inclined, some who are more philosophic, some who are maybe more aesthetics, artistic. So people who
Mm.
are generally scientifically inclined. So when they
Mm.
see the Quran using a lot of words of heart, like kal.
Mm. Mm.
So for we when we try to explain, like, they are very scientific minded, they feel that heart is
Mm.
just a pumping machine of blood. So
Mm.
using the heart, but then we try to say human soul, they say ruh is the word in the Quran. When we try to say it may be for example some spirit, so they are, or like you try to say like some other things also, there is a word called nafs. Then why
Mm.
is it is repeated this kalb, but when clearly heart does not have a thinking capacity? So
Mm.
how to understand these literary things?
Well, actually, the heart does have a thinking capacity. As they say, neuroscience now. There's the heart is like a second brain. There are so many neurons in the heart. There's part of the heart which is almost like a completely second brain, which actually controls the brain rather than the brain controlling it. But yes, look, this is an issue which comes down to a completely different worldview, right? There's those who are materialistic, okay? They're just completely materialistic, or you have to get them out of that first, right? We are not just biological machines, right? We are not just biological robots programmed by DNA and our environment. There's more to us than that.
That doesn't mean they are bad people. It's just that that way of thinking is different.
No, it's not that bad people at all. Just because they believe that. It's just, look, it's part of the thing. People think that science teaches things. Science doesn't teach anything. Scientists are the ones who speak, right? Science itself doesn't speak, right? Scientists do the speaking, and scientific bodies, there's a whole consensus around that. Speaking about things sometimes it's not something they're even allowed to do. To speak about certain things would be career suicide, right?
Yes.
But it's changing. I mean, there's, for example, the University of Virginia. There's that Department of Perceptual Studies, which investigates all of these kind of they investigate the NEDs, near-death experiences, past lives in children, out-of-body experiences. They investigate all this kind of stuff, and so it's been brought into science. But of course, there's a lot of resistance from people who say, no, look, it's just who just have the materialistic mindset. But there is a move now to a post-materialistic scientific worldview.
But this qalb and this heart, is it a literary thing? Because there is an opinion that it's a literary kind of a thing, literature-related word heart, or is it really a heart? What do you think? Like,
no, there is a heart. No, there is a heart. The way it's explained in the Sufis explain it like this. They say that what you really have is the ruh, the spirit, and the body. Okay.
Yeah.
But the body being made from physical matter. Okay, and the spirit being something very lofty. Okay. There has to be a connector between them. What connects them? Okay, what connects them? And what it is say that when the body, when the spirit is mixed with the body, that mixture, that interface between them, okay, that is what the nafs is basically. Okay, the nafs, that is that part which is sort of mixed with the body, the interface between the spirit and the body. That's the nafs. Okay, and the spirit has anatomy similar as people will generally think that the spiritual body is just like a mass of light or something. No, it can have. Who says that? It can have anatomy just as the body has anatomy. It could even have more complicated anatomy than the body.
Yeah.
And so the part of it which is localized actually on the heart, the pumping heart, because it's mirrored. Okay, everything is mirrored. The spiritual body mirrors the physical in many ways. The spirituality of a human being mirrors the physical body. And so that's that part. It's the qalb, okay, is that part of the spirit, okay, which is connected and facing towards the spirit, okay, in that interface. And the part of the spirit which is facing towards the body from that interface is called the nafs. And that's why the Sufis they aim to break the nafs, okay, to break the desires of the nafs, in order and strengthen the desires of purify the heart. And through the heart they gain access to their spirit. So it's there's a philosophy behind it. So it can think. So that's why. And even the nafs itself, it's not an entirely bad thing, right? It changes. You have the nafs al-ammara bis-su, the nafs which commands to evil, as the Qur'an says. Then you have the nafs al-mulhima, nafs al-lawama, and this nafs where you you blame yourself. You keep blaming yourself for doing wrong things, etc. And that's like the nafs of the mu'min. Then you have the nafs of al-mulhima, which is inspired. And finally, you have nafs al-mutma'inna, the tranquil soul, which God speaks to. Ya ayyatuhan nafs al-mutma'inna, yarji ila rabbik. Oh, you soul which is at peace, come back to your Lord. So you have a whole philosophy of that. And Ghazali basically said that the heart, the aql, the nafs, all of these are one thing, the same thing. It's just that when it's it's when it's faced towards the spirit and it's light and stuff, when it's praised, it's called the heart. Okay, it's the heart. And when it's negative, it's called the nafs al-ammara bisu, and then it graduates and changes.
Correct. So, as you have explained, it is more to do with literary thing. People often say it's just a literature use. Like in literature, people say, "My heart is broken." So this is what you're saying. It is more beyond literature. Something
Yeah,
to
no,
this.
it's a reality. It's a reality. In reality, that we do have spirits. Okay, we do have spirits, and
Yeah.
the hearts can become blind, right? Spiritually
Yeah.
blind, and there is the nafs. Okay, these are all mentioned. So yeah, it is a literal thing.
Yeah, this is my observation. Like of lately, more studies is based on mind. I think this neuro-linguistic and all these thing, heart has taken a side back, and more people are mind-based thinking
Yeah,
things like this. So
yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, I think in your part of the world, right, they have I mean, when the spiritual people of Islam, when they arrive to the subcontinent, over there, they find the people talking about chakras and these kind of things, right? The chakras and this, etc. And so they got into that as well. In Islamic terminology, they called the lata'if, right? The
yes,
lata'if,
absolutely.
right? So these things have been investigated. They have been things, but the problem is because in the Western mindset, if it's not physical, okay, it doesn't exist, right? So that's just it. Basically, it's it's not physical, it
And
doesn't exist. That's it.
yes. And secondly, like when we interact with people, we try to explain about why this world is created. We give the Holy Quran and we interact with people and all. Often, like sometimes people criticize that you have to warn people. So I feel that people are already depressed in this life. In this COVID phase, people have seen so many deaths, and people are curious. Like we are entering after death, it's a like a zone of we are entering the unknown. And
Yeah.
Quran can be a ray of hope as well during this time to understand the unknown. But why to do warn and all these things? I am not in this understanding of warn and all these things, because I feel that people want to know about things. So it's up to you to explain. So what is exactly this warn and these all things?
Well, warn about what? What are you
Like
gonna
through
what are you gonna
Quran, you
warn
have to
about?
warn mankind, like through mankind, that there is a judgment day, like these all things, like you have to warn like that. Instead, I feel like you have to explain why this world is created, and through this you
Yeah,
can connect.
yeah, it's true, definitely. But I mean, what I mean is that when you're gonna if you're gonna warn people, what you're warning about them is just the basic stuff of the main things. Warn them, don't about lying, about cheating, about these are the things that you warn about, right? And then warn about that, and judgment day will take care of itself, right? So that when you talk about warning, yeah, if you're supposed to warn, but you have to do it with ادعو إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة, right? Call to the way of your Lord, with wisdom and beautiful موعظة, right? So you're helping people. You don't even have to become a da'i or anything. You just basic helping people, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people in the world are lost, right? They don't know what to do.
Because
We forget
these
as
days,
Muslims. Yeah, we forget as Muslims the psychological anchoring that having understanding or belief in God and in the next life, the anchoring that it gives us. We forget because it's just there with us all the time. But for example, when you look at, for example, the stories of ex-Muslims, people who leave Islam, suddenly it's like your anchor is gone, right? They are lost, right? They feel lost, right? Maybe of course after they've gone through this rebellious phase, but then it's like, okay, life has no meaning. What do I do? There's not, so people do need something to hold on to. They need
yes,
meaning.
actually, and this now this COVID has really shown, it's like people or they're very curious, like we are entering an unknown zone now, because deaths are happening. And what's beyond death? I mean, so Quran can be, and in fact it is the ray of hope, like to understand that what is beyond this thing also. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
what this is what I feel. So like in terms of dawa, my observation is you have to, like as you said, that help people understand the divine will and this thing. So the warn and all, to, because people are already going away from institutionalized religion and all. So it's like calling back to them to that same way. Instead, give offering, something to hold on, as you said.
Yeah. Yeah, just give them basic things. Give them the things which are missing, right? One of the
Yeah.
things, for example, which is missing in the West is regard for family, right? So bring that to them. Tell them, look, try to have a good relationship with your parents, your siblings, your family. Understand that you are linked very closely to them in ways that you don't know. So it's just basically you don't have to go out, be in your face, be in people's face about teaching about the afterlife or hell or warning them or these kind of things. Yeah, they
Like this stream is also very helpful for people to understand about like deeper realities of life, because usually people don't discuss about this thing in today's, it's like Amazon culture, I call it, like everything is shopping and these all things. So
yeah.
these streams, it's very helpful, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, inshallah. All right, brilliant. Thank you. All right,
I just want to ask one
go
thing.
ahead.
Can you, in the Quran, chapter 6, 160, can you just open like it on the screen?
Okay, hold
Chapter
on.
6, 160.
Give me a second. I have to unshare. Stop the screen. Chapter 6, you said?
Verse 60.
Hold on. Where is my... Oh, there it is. Okay, chapter 6. Let me get it first. Verse 60.
Verse 160.
It's 160.
Yeah.
Okay, let me share the screen again. Hold on. And we've got somebody else to come on after this. Okay. You see that? Okay, so the verse says من جاء بالحسنة فله عشر أمثالها ومن جاء بالسيئة فلا يجزى إلا مثلها وهم لا يظلمون. Yeah. So
So I
whoever
want to
brings...
understand. So if I do any good deed, like if I control my anger, if I assist someone, if I give someone money, and if I tell him you take your time and you repay, assuring someone, any good deed if I do for the sake of Almighty, so is it showing that it will be 10 times multiplied? Is it the general principle that whatever good deed we do?
Yeah. Whoever comes on the day of judgment with a good deed, he will have 10 of its like. Yeah, exactly. And whoever comes with a bad deed will just have the recompense of itself, and he will not be held. He will not be dealt unjustly. Exactly. No, yeah, it means exactly that. And there's another verse which says that sometimes God, even if there's a weight of a mustard seed, He will multiply it, and just from that give a huge reward. So it can be even more than that. It can be more than 10 times.
So, but then some verses which mentions God will judge fairly. Fairly means one good deed, one bad deed. Like this, I mean, this is the general mathematical understanding would be. Here it's mentioned good will be 10 times. So
that's just part of generosity, right? So it basically means fairly. When God says it doesn't really say fairly, it says nobody will be treated unjustly, right? So nobody, and unjustly means there will be no dhulm, there will be no oppression. Nobody will be wronged in any way. Right?
So what I
that's
understand.
what it means.
So in principle, are you talking about good deeds will be multiplied by 10, or because some people have an understanding it is only for the month of Ramzan. In Ramzan, it's the general.
Yeah, I understand. No, it's not for the month of Ramadan only. No, it's in general. It's in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
So whatever a person does sincerely good deed for the sake of Almighty, it will be multiplied 10 times. That's a general principle God is proclaiming here.
Yeah. I mean, even it doesn't even say anything about doing it sincerely for God or this. Just do something good. Whoever brings a good thing will have 10 like it, and whoever brings a bad
All
thing will have it's like, and they will not be treated unjustly. We say unjustly, but basically it's hum la yuzlamun. They will not be wronged or oppressed. Okay, it just means that they will not be, receive bad more than what they did.
all right, sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for. I'm really sorry it took so much time of yours.
No, it's
Thank
okay.
you.
It's okay. Anytime.
Yeah, it's really helpful. Yeah.
No problem.
Jazakallah.
Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum. Okay, we have Irfan. Assalamu alaikum, Irfan.
Tom, brother, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I think I can hear myself as well. There's echo.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. I don't know if it's just my internet.
I think you need headphones.
I don't have headphones right now, so I'm just gonna squeeze this into so I can reach you. So just talking about the day of there was this verse reading, I think in Surah Rahman. It's we're 55 and it's verse 5, Surah 5 verse 30, and it says, "They neither mankind nor jinn will be asked about their sins." And I was just curious, what would this be referring to? So the general perception we have is on the will be asked about whether we do good or bad. So in like especially like if you look at Surah Meda, it Jesus is being asked about did you still followers, right? So this word saying that you won't know whether you did good or you did, it'll be like I guess it'll be a determined thing, or people will be known by their mind. Is this what it's referring to?
All right, you're gonna have to switch off the sound a bit, or yeah, because a lot of back feed. Yeah. Okay. The verse. Can you? I don't know what we're gonna do for. All right, lower the sound or something. I don't know. All right. Okay. So basically, it's explained by the verse afterwards. So this one says, "Yawma idhin la yus'al min dhanbihi insun wala jan." Yeah. On this day, no one will be asked about his sin, any man or thing. It's just rhetoric. It's rhetoric. Okay. And why? Because it says, the next one says, يُعْرَفُ الْمُجْرِمُونَ بِسِيمَاهُمْ فَيُؤْخَذُ بِالنَّوَاصِي وَالْأَقْدَامِ. Okay, so the criminals will be known by their marks. Okay, and they will be seized by the forelocks and the feet. It doesn't mean that they will actually not be questioned. They will be questioned. Okay. And here it says, it's in the majhul. لا يسأل عن ذنبه. Who will not question the human being over them? So it's not God. God is going to question everybody. All right. But everybody else will not be asking, because they will see the marks on the mujrimun. Okay. Does that make sense?
It's kind of like to make them stand, so make the criminal stand out.
Yeah. So they will be known. No, it's these angels will not ask. Basically, these angels who are going to grab the criminals by their forelegs and by their feet, they're not going to ask, what sins you did.
Right.
Okay, they will be completely marked.
But then they will be taken to Allah, and then they will be answering to whatever they did. That's right?
Yeah. So this is talking about now it's talking about basically the angels are not going to ask. The ones who will take them to hell are not going to ask them what sins you did. Okay, because this will be after judgment. So they will be marked already.
Okay, I see. Thank you, brother. I just wanted clarification on that verse. And next time I call you, I'll have a mic or something. There's no echo on the.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
Thank you again.
Jazakallah. No problem. Anytime. All right. Okay. Let me check the chat quickly before we decide whether we should close this up. If there's anybody who put something in the chat which I didn't see, could you put it on again? We have another comment. So الدعاء بمعنى الاستشهاد بأقوال السلف التي تخالف تصريح القرآن. That's beautifully put, Abdullah. Yeah, exactly right. So he's saying here that dua means the bringing up as evidence the sayings of the Salaf, of the elders, the previous people, which goes against the Qur'an. Okay, that's what it means, dua. Okay, it's invoking the words of the Salaf, of the previous generation. It really means, even now, it doesn't have to be Salaf. It's invoking the words of others, okay, which go against the tasrih al-Quran, the explicit words of the Quran. That's beautifully put, Exactly. And this, like I said again, it's a concept which Hassan al-Maliki was the first to mention it. And it makes more sense because when you look at the Quran, it constantly talks about, dua min dunillah, dua, those who invoke other than God, You think to yourself, this Quran is supposed to be guidance, going to be guidance for, for centuries and thousands of years. Do people need to know so badly? Well, people need to know that so badly about idols, about statues, about inanimates. Okay, even the pagan Arabs, they were well aware that these things did not answer, did not this. So that level, I mean, the Quran has, single verses can have multiple meanings. Okay, they can address a topic on different levels. One verse can be used to negate a multitude of falsehoods. Okay, so the idea of dua min dunillah, of calling other than God, invoking other than God, as being about the inanimate statues and idols. This is like level 1. This is what you teach the children. Okay, you teach the children. People before, they used to call the idols Hubul, Lat, Uzza. And God is saying don't. Okay, yes, but from when you're 7 years old and 8 years old, 9 years, you're being taught that until you're 60. That's still your idea. That's still how you read the Quran. No, there's more to it than that. Much more. Okay, the same. Like we said, shirk, the main shirk, and the main issue with shirk is, of course, the people. Right, the people. The idols don't ever do anything. They never make anybody do anything right or wrong. Right, they are completely just inanimate. Right, the main shirk, even the shirk of calling to idols, the ones who get you to do that are other people, not the idols themselves. No idol ever said, call upon me, bow to me, prostrate to me, sacrifice to me. No, it's other people who are being served, which does, who are, it's servitude to other people that is making you do those things. All right, let me see if there's any more comments. Ahmad says no, there's nothing else. Yeah, someone was killed last week because he insulted me. No, of course not. No, absolutely not. Put it this way, would the Prophet have killed somebody for insulting him? No, he never did that. Of course, people might bring the issue with Ka'b, the Jewish poet, and he wasn't killed because of that. If that story is even true, he was a warmonger. He was the one who, went around getting other tribes to agree to attack Medina. Anti-Islamists, anti-Muslim rhetoric tries to make it seem as if the Prophet had him killed because he insulted him. when even the narrations themselves, they when the Jews came to complain about that, he said that this man of yours, he started to collect people to fight against us. It had nothing to do with poetry or this kind of stuff being done to him. The Prophet always forgave every single slight that was done against him. Okay, never once did he ever once take vengeance or respond to any hurt or harm that was done towards him. Not once. From Ilyas. So Al-Imran from 336, beginning from Lisa, and is not the male like the female. Oh, Laysa al-dhakaru kal-untha. Yeah. Why is it most often translated as the male is not like? No, that does mean female. What I'm saying is the asl, the origins of the word female. Okay, it comes from this softness. Yeah, softness. Okay, and sort of weakness. Even though the way that the verse is mentioned in Surat al-Nisa, يَدْعُونَ مِن dunillah illa inathan. Okay, inath is different form than untha. Okay, untha, the female. Inatha is a different form. Okay, it's mentioned in a different way. And like I said, even in modern times, right? Like I said, when men want to disparage other men, they will say, you're like girls, you're sissies, you're wimps, you're girl. Even little kids do that in school, right? You girl, all right, you're a girl. What does that mean? It just means that they're trying to denigrate the other by saying that they are weak, right? They're not like strong and hard like a man. They're not going to come out and fight or this kind of thing, right? So that's what the Quran is saying here. يَدْعُونَ مِن دُنillah illa inatha. Right? These who they're invoking other than God, they are women, yeah. Not to denigrate women or anything, but just saying that they are, they think they're real men. No, they're not real men. Okay, they're like women. That's the kind of idea behind it. Okay, so that's that comment. All right. Somebody asked here, what is Hajj Tamattu? And Roman was asking, I was wondering the same thing. Hajj Tamattu is a type of Hajj, right? So the Hajj that's done to Mecca, there are three main types of Hajj. One of them was called a Tamattu, which is where you go and you first do a Umrah, and then you take off your Ihram, and then you continue to do the Hajj. So there are different types of Hajj. And one of the ways was Tamattu, and Umar ibn al-Khattab, the second caliph, he prohibited that. He stopped it. He stopped both the Tamattu of Hajj and Tamattu of marriage. So he stopped both these types of Tamattu and prohibited them. And so after the time of Abu Bakr and Umar, much later, and when Ibn Abbas was older, he would be asked about the Tamattu, because, for example, Ali, he would say, no, the Prophet did Tamattu, and we will do Tamattu. So there was this conflict happened, as you know, the conflict which happened between mainly the Umayyads and the Alawids, right? So there was this conflict of, do we follow the way of Abu Bakr and Umar, right? Of it's prohibited to do Tamattu, or the way of Ali, in terms of the way that the Umayyads viewed it was the way of Ali. Right, whereas which is why once they even asked Ibn Abbas, they asked him, are you from the Shia of Uthman or from the Shia of Ali? And Ibn Abbas said, I am from the Shia of Muhammad. Right, so he had that conflict happening, and so when you need to have an idea of the history. Basically, they came up to him and they were asking him about the issue of Tamattu. It's almost like testing him. Whose side is he on? Is he on Ali's side, or is he on Abu Bakr and Umar and Uthman's side, which So he said, no, the tamattu is something which the Messenger of Allah did. And then they would say, no, but Abu Bakr and Umar said, don't do it. So that's the background on that. Okay, down here there's a couple more questions. There's a book of Tiffany about blasphemy. Yeah, there's a book of his, which is I think it's called Al-Salim al-Maslul ala Shatim al-Rasul, the drawn sword against the one who insults the Prophet. Yeah, Ibn Taymiyyah, look, there's a reason why every single fanatic or extremist, terrorist Muslim group has Ibn Taymiyyah as one of the main intellectual figures in their literature. There's a reason for that. Okay, he has good points. He does have good points, but on balance, his intellectual heritage is extremely destructive. Extremely. And if you personally travel and a fellow passenger is very critical of the Prophet Muhammad, which biography would you suggest? The Prophet is Lord, sadly. Yeah, definitely. I love the Martin Lings one. Martin Lings, it's written in a masterful way, very respectful way, and in it he has put a lot of the because Martin Lings was from the Maryamiyya Tariq or something like that. Anyway, he's a Sufi, he's a published Sufi author, right? And he was a very saintly man. He was a very saintly man, Martin Lings. He's more of the perennialists. He was more in that stream of Sufism. But the point is that his biography, one of the best biographies, very beautifully written. He was a master of English language. He used to do Shakespearean plays, and so I really like his thing. He's put a lot of very beneficial things inside it. So I like it a lot. I like Martin Lings' biography the most. But of course, it does have its issues. It's relying mainly, of course, on the earliest sources and the earliest biographies, which were written, they were commissioned basically by first by the Umayyads, right? Ibn Ishaq. He was commissioned to write the biography of the Prophet. The very first biography which was written, the Caliph said no. They rejected it because because too many good things were said about the Ansar. So it was rejected, and it was then Ibn Ishaq wrote his, and we don't even have that. We only have the recension of Ibn Hisham. Ibn Hisham was writing in the Abbasid period. So there is a lot which needs to be realigned with the Quran. For anybody who can understand Arabic, I highly recommend Hassan al-Maliki's series. He's got basically 5 seasons of it, of the biography of the Prophet, by just going, from the Quran. So he's going through the verses of the Quran and showing just how much history is actually in the Quran, and it's a surprisingly huge amount. I mean, I mentioned one of the things in the stream I did about the captives of Badr. Another thing in Arabic here, الشرك بالله منتشرا جدا مشاركة الله في الحكم على الناس. Yeah, he's saying here from the outward manifestations of shirk, which is widespread now, is the associating with Allah in judging other people, right? Judging other people. الناس يسوى الإنسان حكما يحكم على الآخرين بالجنة والنار. So a person becomes one who judges people as being in heaven or hell, as if he were God. علما بأن هذه صلاحيات إلهية, even though these are prerogatives of God and not of people. Very good. I read your name as Justin Muslim. All right, okay, I think we'll end it there. Jazakumullah khair. Thank you everybody for coming on. And inshallah, see you all again for the next stream. Remember, please, anybody who would like to come on, let them know they can come on to share any Quranic insights that they might have. If they don't have anything to share, then they can always write them in the comment section, and I can present for them if they like. Jazakumullah khair, and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.